All right, y'all, welcome to the Scott Horton Show. I'm the director of the Libertarian Institute, editorial director of antiwar.com, author of the book Fool's Errand, Time to End the War in Afghanistan, and the brand new Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism. And I've recorded more than 5,500 interviews since 2003, almost all on foreign policy, and all available for you at scotthorton.org. You can sign up for the podcast feed there, and the full interview archive is also available at youtube.com/Scott Horton Show.
All right, you guys, introducing Hassan El-Tayyab from the Friends Committee on National Legislation. That's FCNL.org, a great anti-war activist organization, the Quaker lobby in the national interest, if you ask me. Welcome back to the show, Hassan. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thanks, Scott.
Good. Happy to have you here. Hey, man, so we have so much to talk about in terms of, well, I'll just say real quick, we got a House and a Senate version now introduced in the Congress, the War Powers Resolution to try to end the war in Yemen, or American support for it, of course. But first of all, can you give us an update? I know there's a lot of news out of Yemen and where things stand with the ceasefire, and especially now with Biden having gone to kiss the ring of His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince Bonesaw over there, and the rest of this stuff. Man, take it away.
Thank you so much. So maybe I could just start off by talking about the Yemen truce itself, and then show how the War Powers effort that Senator Sanders and Pramila Jayapal are, and a whole bunch of others are doing, is just such an important effort that will help bolster the truce and hopefully extend it. So unfortunately, there are real signs that this whole thing could fall apart and not get extended past the August 2nd deadline. The Houthis have indicated that they won't accept an extension of the truce without significant improvements. They've really criticized that, the blockade's still in place. There have been, obvious, welcome things that have happened since. There has been a cessation of airstrikes and drone attacks, but again, the parties are accusing each other of violating the agreement. President Biden did go to Saudi Arabia. I think there were definitely some missed opportunities there. Didn't really consult directly with the Houthis about extending the truce, so there was a missed opportunity there. Also, the head of Yemen's newly appointed Presidential Leadership Council was not invited to the U.S.-Saudi security discussions, and that just really goes to show, I think, the major power imbalance that's at play here. The U.S. invoked UN Security Council Resolution 2216 that we've talked about, which basically would, anytime you hear that invoked, basically the Saudis saying that they want the Houthis to immediately and unconditionally withdraw their forces. So again, folks aren't really, things are not going in the direction that we really needed to actually resolve this crisis. That's why I think, it's just so critical that the U.S. use our existing leverage. We can't unilaterally do everything, but we can make sure that the Saudis don't restart airstrikes, and that's why the Sanders effort is just so critical.
Now, so when Biden went to Saudi Arabia, obviously they talked about, they're still working on, I guess, this new kind of deeper alliance along the lines of the Abraham Accords of Israel with the Arab states. And of course, Biden was begging the Saudis to increase production of oil to try to drive the price down a little bit, this kind of thing. But do we know, is there much reporting about what they discussed about the war in Yemen at all?
Yeah, so great question. They did discuss it. The president, thanked Mohammed bin Salman and King Salman, the heads of Saudi Arabia. They thanked them for their efforts to, secure the truce agreement and the progress that's been made. And, they want to, they made a promise to keep working together. I think what is interesting in that is that it didn't seem like the president asked Saudi Arabia to do anything. There was no demand to fully open up the airport, fully open up the Red Sea port to fuel ships, make sure medicine can get in. basically saying that we're not prepared to support a resumption of airstrikes. So I think those were some major missed opportunities, and again, points back to why Congress needs to step in here.
Yeah. All right. So, talk a bit about, I guess, first of all, the effort in the House. It was introduced, this War Powers resolution, back at the very end of May, beginning of June. And so what's the progress there? How many co-sponsors, how much momentum, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we've got incredible momentum, Scott. And I think in large part because of this bipartisan coalition that we have, led by folks like the Libertarian Party, who's doing so much work. But we've also got, progressives, faith groups, activated veterans groups. I like to say that this is a coalition that spans, Ilhan Omar and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, you're on the right track when you're doing stuff like that. We've got 110 co-sponsors on the House side. There's a whole bunch of folks. I think we've got about 10 or 11 Republicans on board. Biggs, Massey, Gates, a whole bunch of others. On the Senate side, SJ Res 56 is the bill number over there that was introduced by Sanders, Warren, Leahy. We just added a whole bunch of other folks. Durbin, Wyden are both on, Baldwin, Markey, and a bunch of others. So we've got a lot of work to do, and still hoping that we get Mike Lee and Rand Paul. They haven't added their names yet. There's indications that they're certainly supportive, but so any nudge there would be wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Lee has always been out front on this in the last 2 or 3 times that they tried this, wasn't he?
Yeah, so I think if I can't speak for the office, I know that they're not on the bill yet. They might have questions about the trip, but I will say that there have been conversations with that office, both offices, and getting warm reception. But I think we just got to keep engaging, because I think ideologically they're completely aligned.
Yeah. Well, I know that man has at least had a chance to read enough already, because I handed it to him at Freedom Fest back a year ago. So there's a good chapter on Yemen in there. Good enough to make you mad enough to want to support a bill like this, I'd think.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, I know a guy who knows Rand Paul. I'm going to try to say a little something and see if I can ask someone else to nudge further down the chain there for me, and see if we can get a little bit, because I got an idea. It's pretty simple. I'm not trying to take a lot of credit. It would just be to have Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders standing up there like, the referee holds up the boxing champ's hand. It's like, yeah, the champ. And have them stand there and have them just say, look, everybody knows that we disagree about everything. And Mr. as left as you can go in the Senate, and Mr. supposedly very conservative senator, whatever, however you want to frame it there, with Rand Paul. But look, we agree about this because it's so damn important. Look at what's going on here. And we have to put a stop to this, and then we can go back to disagreeing about things that are less important than this most important thing. The script writes itself, right? I mean, what's the problem?
Yeah, I love it. So, we've got a lot of work to do. And I think, I think it's a matter of when, not if, personally. So, they just need to keep hearing from people that care. And I think there's a lot of us out there.
Yeah,
absolutely. I will say I'm really excited. Shifting a bit to the Democrats, really excited that we've got a few notable folks on there. I mean, Senator Durbin, he is basically the whip of Senate Democrats, and he is on the bill. I mean, that is huge. So the top of Democratic leadership is on. We've also got Senator Gary Peters. He's a senior senator from Michigan. He's not up for re-election, but, Michigan is a purple state. I mean, he's got a lot of conservatives in his district, and he's taking a stand on Yemen war powers and reasserting congressional war authority. So I think that's another really important get. And I hope we just continue to expand it. I mean, we've just introduced this bill last week. So folks are probably just checking their inboxes now and in reading about the bill. So messages this week and next are huge.
Right. Well, listen, so has the White House said anything about this at all?
On the bill effort or Yemen?
Both, yeah. What's their first of all, yeah, what's their take on Yemen lately is the broader question, but what about this bill, this effort to pass this war powers resolution?
I mean, I think on the war powers, I mean, no president has ever said we support Congress trying to reassert its war authority. So this is just a long trend of presidents not supporting, I think if we pass this thing, when we pass this thing, let's, speak a little bit with confidence here. I think we have a really good shot. I think Biden would be in a really tough bind to not sign it into law. I mean, part of what this bill, I think it's worth explaining exactly what we're trying to stop. We're trying to stop mid-air refueling is already stopped, but we're trying to stop offensive intelligence sharing, for the airstrikes, logistical support, like spare parts maintenance transfers, that, putting the spare tires onto these warplanes that are flying over Yemen doing these operations. And any U.S. Military participation of any kind in these Saudi airstrikes. So part of it, we're just saying, actually Biden did a pretty good thing here by, ending, offensive intelligence sharing. And we're just trying to put some guardrails up to say no one can start that up again. We're codifying that into law. And we're taking one small step further, I think, that's going to have a huge impact, but stopping the DoD from being able to oversee spare parts and maintenance. And without that support, these planes could not fly and do these, operations in Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on just 1 second. Hey, y'all, the audiobook of my book, Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism, is finally done. Yes, of course, read by me. It's available at Audible, Amazon, Apple Books, and soon on Google Play and whatever other options there are out there. It's my history of America's war on terrorism from 1979 through today. Give it a listen and see if you agree. It's time to just come home. Enough already. Time to End the War on Terrorism. The audiobook. Hey guys, I've had a lot of great webmasters over the years, but the team at expanddesigns.com have by far been the most competent and reliable. Harley Abbott and his team have made great sites for the show and the Institute, and they keep them running well, suggesting and making improvements all along. Make a deal with expanddesigns.com for your new business or news site. They will take care of you. Use the promo code SCOTT and save $500. That's expanddesigns.com. Hey guys, Scott Horton here for Listen and Think Libertarian Audiobooks. As you may know, the audiobook of my new book, Enough Already, Time to End the War on Terrorism, is finally out. It's co-produced by our longtime friends at Listen and Think Libertarian Audiobooks. For many years now, Derek Sheriff over there at Listen and Think has offered lifetime subscriptions to anyone who donates $100 or more to The Scott Horton Show at scotthorton.org/donate or to the Libertarian Institute at libertarianinstitute.org/donate. And they've got a bunch of great titles, including Inside Syria by the late, great Reese Erlich. That's listenandthink.com.
And now, is it really right that they stopped all the intelligence and logistics and all that? Because I guess when they announced they were halting all these things at the beginning of 2021, that was taken as kind of a package deal. And then it was, I think, the end of May a year ago that Admiral Kirby said, we're still, of course, giving them resupply and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like 2 out of 5 things on the list. So it made me, I guess, assume that they hadn't canceled any of it. And that after all, they need American and British contractors to run all the air traffic control and the logistics and which bombs go under which wings and which pilots fly on which day and all of that kind of deal like that. The little princelings can't run that by themselves.
Yeah, so all really fair points. We don't know. The administrations have not told the truth in the past. So we have a lot of precedent.
You're right, though, that it's important for the narrative that, we just want to keep doing the right thing like we've been doing, even better than before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a huge advance to actually permanently end offensive intel sharing, and then every piece of this, I'm telling you, we've been doing this for years. They Every time we make an inch, they come back, and it's just been this tug of war. But we're making ground. I mean, we ended mid-air refueling for Saudi warplanes. The Trump administration, folks might remember, actually said, well, one, we're not doing anything. Okay, we are doing mid-air refueling, but we're not actually launching the attacks. So this isn't the U.S. doing it. Congress said no, and then they cut that mid-air refueling off. And just like that, just like we got to have a consensus that needed to stop, we're trying to build a new consensus to basically take the gains that we've made here under Biden, which obviously not everything we want, but there have been some, it's worth noting. And that offensive intelligence sharing, that's what they said, not what we said. They said that they cut it off, and we're just saying we need to codify that. And to one, make sure it's actually happening, and two, make sure it can never restart.
Yeah. I'm always pedantic at the wrong time. I'm with you, man. Let me ask you this.
I got you. No, it's a good question. No, I really, we don't really know. That's the thing.
Yeah, and I presume the worst fairly, I think. And now, so tell me, isn't it right that Mohammed bin Salman and his regime were signaling that they're trying to climb down and find a way out of this war that they clearly have not won and cannot win, and that is costing them more and more, not just in their expenditure in Yemen, but in terms of their targets getting hit inside Saudi, inside UAE. And so is there a way that, I've been telling people when they call their Democratic congressman, they live in a Democratic district, tell them, support the president on this. The president and the Saudis are trying to climb down and find a way out of this war. We need to help them do that by facing down the Republicans, by supporting this, because it's true that the leadership and the majority of the Republican Party are very bad on this issue, because it's the dreaded Shiite enemy, of course. So it's not to discourage the good America Firsters who have their act together on this, but that's a way to frame it to the Democrats, right? But isn't that true, right? That actually that snake, Mohammed bin Salman, does need a hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're making really good points, Scott. And I think, kind of, we got to message it with, who we're talking to, and just be aware of what people care about. Mike Lee, Rand Paul, they really care about this constitutional piece. Democrats really care about, supporting the administration. Everyone will tell you that they care about resolving the humanitarian crisis. So I think, as we're trying to build momentum on this, we've got a big coalition with, lots of different stakeholders that are coming to the table for different reasons. And, we got to just make sure we're, staying true to our principles, but also making sure that we're addressing, the needs of the different parts of the coalition.
Yeah. And so talk about our coalition here, all the peace activist groups who've been working so hard on this, because obviously us libertarians have been trying our best to, recruit phone callers for the effort. Yeah. But there are a lot of people who've been working very hard on this issue for a very long time, up to and including this day and this current effort. So can you give us some ideas, and that way, some people who are worthy of our listeners' support and people that they can contact and network with and the rest.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is my favorite part of our discussions, and I love how you always pivot it back to what we can actually do about this. And like we were talking about before, we have this really large coalition of organizations and members of Congress. I'd be remiss if I didn't give the Libertarian Twitter page a shout out. Some of the most activity I've seen on Yemen is actually coming from y'all. So fantastic work. Just, I would have people plug into that campaign. FCNL.org is a good way to get plugged in. We've got advocacy teams all over the country working on this. The only ask that they are doing right now is to end the Yemen war and reassert congressional war powers. So if you want to find a group near you, we've got folks in Utah, Kentucky. We've got folks, all over the West Coast, East Coast, literally every state in the country, we've got a team. So that's a great way to get plugged in. Love what Concerned Vets are doing, Common Defense. These are great veterans organizations that are committed to anti-war. Yemen Relief and Reconstruction Foundation, they are doing incredible humanitarian aid work on the ground in Yemen. If you just want to do a quick call, the easiest way to do that is 1-833-STOP-WAR. That'll connect you right with your rep and 2 senators. Again, 1-833-STOP-WAR.
So that great website, I was wondering if you could hook me up with those guys, because I've been working on my rap about, what to tell people to tell their Democratic congressman, or what to tell people to tell their Republican congressman when they call in order to, frame it in a way that's acceptable. And on that website, it's a great little website, but it only has sort of like talking points like you would say to some Democrats maybe. And I was wondering if maybe you could connect me with those guys, and then I could propose to them, here's some talking points, that people could use for dealing with Democrats, and here's some that you could use for Republicans, including theirs that they already have, but just some more things that I've tried to come up with. Because, look, man, just like with everything, Hassan, right, it's all social psychology. So what are my incentives among my people and my prices if I do this or if I do that? Everybody's going to love it, or I'm going to get myself in a bunch of trouble. I'm going to be a Democrat taking on my president and making myself very unpopular with the leadership, or I'm going to be doing the right thing to support his great effort to end this war. Or, you know what I mean? Just however it is, it's got to be framed in a way. If for the Republicans, this is a great way to embarrass Biden, to force him to end a war. Say, we're the America Firsters now, and the Democrats are unreliable. If it was up to them, we'd stay at war in the Middle East forever. And frame it that way. November's coming up. People like it when you end wars. I don't know, something. Be creative. I'm sure everybody listening here knows a better way than me to think about approaching it there. But just think about who you're talking to and talk to them in a way that they would say, yeah, you know what? In fact, here's a very important one for Republicans and Democrats, but especially for Republicans is, hey, get it straight. Make sure you understand. This is not the war on terrorism against Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. No shit, like for real. This is a war for them against their worst enemies, the Houthis. And as Rand Paul said, if we won the war we're trying to win now, they could end up taking over the capital city. The AQAP terrorists we started out fighting against in the first place. And that ain't no lie. You can look it up. That's really the reality. And that's the kind of thing that, really opens people's eyes to this thing. That they might have lost track, but we switched sides in the war back in 2015, and it's pretty bad.
I think those are great messaging tips. I really do. I mean, we have to think about who we're talking to. We have to raise the urgency, like we were talking about before. There's a lot of different stakeholders, and different things are going to resonate with different folks. So, Scott, I can connect you offline with the folks at Demand Progress who run that number.
Cool. And yeah, it's the website. It's a great website. And what a great idea. 1-833-STOPWAR.com. And then that way they have, a little something for you to say if you need some help, and, some instructions. Make it easy for you to pass on to your friends as a link in the form of a phone number there. It's a great idea theirs to do it that way. And then
you've got great communication skills. I like what you're saying.
Yeah, well, and then I'm sorry if you said this and I'm being redundant, but just so people know, that you call that number and you just put in your zip code and the robot connects you to your congressman. So that's it. Yeah, you don't have to sit there and go through a rigmarole. This is when we say 833-STOP-WAR, that's a shortcut to your guy that you need to influence.
Yeah, and I would just make one final point on that. It gives you a prompt with some background, but you can say what you need to say. I think people sharing their stories, like why this actually impacts them, why they're concerned about war powers or the war and humanitarian crisis in Yemen and ongoing U.S. complicity. So I think, folks, are also encouraged to get creative because there's a lot of smart people in this network.
Yeah. And by the way, I think we had talked before about some people were having trouble with the Senate side. They call their House member and then it tries to connect them to the Senate, but maybe there was like a little malfunction there or something. Do you know if that's straightened out, especially now that the Senate version has been introduced?
Yeah, I believe they straightened that out. Thanks for flagging it.
Great. And then, so also, I'm interested in the reaction that you've got from the staffers, because I know on one of these conference calls on Zoom there, someone said that the House staffers were saying, more calls, please. And I wonder whether you're getting much of, is it really a two-way response here? Do you hear much from them about how many calls they're getting, how much difference it makes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a huge difference when constituents are reaching out. I think, if members are going to stick their neck out and support, any bill or piece of legislation, they want to know that people at home are going to support them. So, and another good thing to do is just thank your members if they do the right thing. I think, a little gratitude actually goes a long way.
Right. Yeah, that's a really great point. And I've had a few people on Twitter tell me that, in fact, one guy showed me his response from his congressman was, "You're damn right, and here's what I think about it," and it was really good. Whatever his staffer had written there, whatever, was pretty damn good. So that's a good point too. That if your congressman is good on this, let them know that you really appreciate it because this matters to you, and that should be impressive because I think everybody knows that TV doesn't talk about this.
Yeah.
So if people in the neighborhood care about this, it must be really important to them for other real reasons, So that's great. And I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I got to go. I'm late to my next thing,
got
which
it.
sucks
Thanks,
because
buddy.
I wanted to ask you more stuff. But thank you so much for all your great help on this issue, and hopefully we'll have some real success soon.
You got it. Take care.
All right, you guys, that is Hassan El-Tayyab. He is at the Friends Committee on National Legislation. That's fcnl.org, fcnl.org.
The Scott Horton Show, Anti-War Radio, can be heard on KPFK 90.7 FM in LA, apsradio.com, antiwar.com, scotthorton.org, and libertarianinstitute.org.